Alright, so y'all go ahead and do the factoring and the math knowledge question for today. Pause the video, and then once everyone is finished, you can unpause the video and I'll go over the correct answers. So for the factoring, you're going to again do remove, replace, reduce. So we're going to remove the 4 and multiplying it by the 81. And so that'll give you x squared minus 36x and then plus 324. This will factor as x minus 18 times x minus 18. And then you replace the number you took out, which was the 4. You have to do it on both of your factors. And then you reduce. The 4 and the 18 both divide by 2. So that'll give us 2x minus 9 and 2x minus 9. Which you can also write as just 2x minus 9 squared. Okay, for the math knowledge question, we want to know what value of k is x equal to a solution of this. So if we plug in 2 for our x value, 2 squared would be 4 minus 16 plus k would equal 0. 4 minus 16 is negative 12. So that would mean that k would have to equal 12. So that'd be your answer for your math knowledge question. We're looking at lesson 28 today. We're going to look at factorial notation and then abstract rate problems. So hopefully after this lesson you'll understand factorial notation and abstract rate problems. So we want to evaluate 5 factorial. That's not just shouting 5. That's not what that's saying. It's not an exclamation point. That's called a factorial. And so whenever it says 5 factorial, what that means is that we have 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. You start with the number they give you, and then you go down with every whole number until you get to 1, and then you stop. And so then you're just going to multiply. So 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 should give you 120. And so that would be your answer. Okay. Now we're going to look at evaluating this, and we're not going to be using a calculator. So if we broke this up, that would be 9 times 8 times 7 all the way down to 1. But we don't want to have to go all the way out that far. We're going to stop once we get to 5 factorial, because 5 factorial would keep it going. And the reason I stop with the 5 factorial, I have a 5 factorial in my denominator. And so it's the bigger number in the denominator. And so if I don't write the rest of them out, these are going to cancel. And so you don't have to write them all the way out. Although if you do, it's fine. The 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1s will all cancel. And then this 3 and this 2 will cancel with this 6. And so we really just have 9 times 8 times 7, which is 504. And so that would be how that simplifies. Okay, we're going to look at another one. If y'all think you can do this one by yourself, y'all go ahead and try it, and then I'll go over it. So 14 factorial, we're going to say 14 times 13 times 12, and then times 11 factorial. And the reason we're stopping at 11 is there's an 11 in the denominator. So 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 is 6 factorial, and then times 11 factorial. So the 11 factorials cancel, and then the 4 and 3 will cancel with the 12, and the 2 and the 1, you don't really need the 1. The 2 will cancel with this 14 to make it a 7. And so that'll make it a little bit easier on your math. 7 times 13 is 91, and then 6 times 5 is 30. And so that would be your answer for that one. So that's how you can use factorial notation. We're going to get into why you need to know factorial notation in another lesson. But that's how you use factorial notation. Now we're going to look at one where we want to use the factorial key on the calculator to help us evaluate this. So 11 factorial is what we have, but we're missing the 7 all the way down to the 1. So if we divided by the 7 factorial, that would give us what's up here. And so the way that you're going to do this on the calculator, you're going to do 11, and then you're going to go to math that's right below the green button. And when you hit math, you're going to go over to probability. And then you see how the factorial is the 4th key, so you hit number 4, and it pops it in for you. And then you're going to divide by 7, and then you're going to go to math, over to probability, and then you're going to hit 4. And then if you enter, you get 7,920. And so that would be your answer. And if you just multiplied these together, you would get the same thing. Now, some of you may be saying, I don't see the factorial key on my calculator. I don't have a graphing calculator. On those little blue calculators, you should see PRB, probability. And if you hit that, somewhere on probability, you'll see your factorial. So go to probability, PRB, or probability. One of the two, you should be able to find your factorial somewhere there. Okay? So now we're going to look at some abstract rate problems. So we have a train that traveled m miles at p miles per hour and still arrived 1 hour late. How fast should the train have traveled to arrive on time? So on these, I like to set up a chart. And this was the first time, and this was the second time. And we have distance, rate, and time. So the first time, they traveled m miles at p miles per hour. And so the time, in terms of these variables, distance equals rate times time. So our time is distance over rate. So m over p. That would be the time originally. And then it says we arrived an hour late. So if we were too late to school, let's say instead of getting here at 7:30, we got here at 8:30, do you need to go more quickly or slower tomorrow to get here on time? You need to go faster. What about your time? Should you take longer to get to school or shorter? Hopefully you're going to take less time to get to school so that you can get here on time. So the time that we had the first time, m over p, we need to subtract 1 because we took too long to get there. So that's going to be our new time. And it wants to know how fast. So what is our rate? And we still are traveling the same distance, m. So now we're going to solve for our r. So d equals rt. So m equals r times t. So m over p minus 1. And then you're just going to solve for your r. So over here, I can make one fraction. And the denominator would be p. So we would have m minus p, because the 1 has to get multiplied by p. And then to solve for r, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So p over m minus p. And you're going to multiply by that on the other side too. P over m minus p. So your rate is going to equal mp over m minus p. And so that would be your answer. So it's called abstract rate because your answer is abstract. It's just in variables. You don't get a real number for your answer. It's just some random variables. Okay, so that's how you would work through that one. Looking at this one, again, you want to make a chart. We're going to have the first time and then the second time. And we have distance, rate, and time. So the boat traveled K miles in T hours. So in terms of K and T, what is our R? Well, distance equals rate times time. So rate is distance over time. So K over T. And it said it was 40 miles short of the goal when the gun went off. So if they tried again, how long would it take the goal if she increased the rate by 10? So how long? That's looking for our time. And we want to get to 40 miles past K. So our distance would be K plus 40. And then they increased the rate. So the rate was K over T. We added 10 to that. So we changed both of these. So distance equals rate times time. So now if we solve this equation, we first need to make this one fraction. So K plus 40, and then our denominator would be T. So we would have K plus 10T. And then you can multiply both sides of your equation by the reciprocal, which is T over K plus 10T. So multiply by T over K plus 10T. So your time would equal KT plus 40T over K plus 10T. So that would be your answer there. So again, it's a random looking answer. That's why it's called abstract rate. But hopefully that helps you a little bit with working through those. You may want to go back and rewatch the video for these. These types of problems tend to be a little harder for people to understand. Typically, one of the most commonly messed up parts is on this last one. Instead of subtracting one, people add one. And they only gave me the variables of m and p here, so only m and p can show up in my answer. If you put a t or an x or something, it's going to be wrong because I don't know what that variable is. Your answer has to only be in terms of the variables they gave you in the problem. So if you look here, they gave me k and t, and they didn't give me any other variables. So only k and t can show up in my answer. So those are some of the commonly missed parts about these. Your homework tonight is number 26 you get to omit, so make sure you do the other ones so we can go over any questions you have tomorrow.